And Jason and I are going to kind of take turns, kind of go back and forth on this a little bit. But the first thing I want to talk about is the aha moment. A moment when you find, the moment you find an innovation in your market that is almost indistinguishable from magic, okay? It's almost like somebody put a rabbit out of a hat in front of you. How many in here today, based on what you saw in that previous presentation, had an aha moment? Anybody? You think, hey, I can sell this. Thank you, Shy. I appreciate that. No, I got it. I've got somebody down here. Anyway, for me, first time I drove a tractor that had any guidance in it whatsoever, light bar guidance, okay, that was like, woo, we saw something. First time I had RTK and repeatability, I was like, ooh, next level, okay, this is what we're going to do. All right, the first time you saw soil moisture sensor technology, doesn't matter if it was ours, because a lot of you tried a lot of other products before you came to the best, all right? But the first time you saw it, you were enamored with it, I would imagine. Most of us in here, you know, you do. In order to sell, you have to love it. You've got to have, there's got to be a moment. There's got to be something about it, some feature, something that you have that sets it apart in your mind. And what gives you the aha moment is not necessarily what's going to be given to the other guy, okay? But that's not going to stop you from making a sale. What'll stop you from making a sale is not recognizing that as you were going through different points and you were really hammering what does it for you, meanwhile, all he thought about was the nutrition management. Meanwhile, all he thought about was what was going on with disease, you know, and you're back there hammering, man, these set points are wonderful, you know? I mean, stop talking. You are now at the close point, okay? A lot of you guys, I've heard you talk about sales situations, and the one thing I can't stress enough to you, all right? Know when you've got a yes, and don't talk your way into a no. Know when it's time to close. You'll feel it. It's there. Everybody in here is married. You knew when she liked you and you liked her, all right? That feeling comes over us naturally. I'm just saying. You've got it. When that feeling hits, that's when it's time to close, okay? Pretty simple. Anyway, the first time you saw CropX in our platform, for me, big aha moment, okay? All right. Now, Jason and I are both going to talk about a couple different things here, but one thing I want to stress to you is we have a lot of great features in this platform. We're going to talk about keep building more and more. Obviously, in the last presentation, in just the last presentation, you saw all the different enhancements we're going to be doing, everything that's going to be improved, all of it. Remember that we are an irrigation management platform first. And every feature that comes from that is where your $300 subscription comes from, okay? Everything else, right now, that's a bonus, okay? But I want you to think about 100% year-on-year ROI just from the water, just from the irrigation management alone. That's it. The rest of it, it's bonus. So, I mean, Jason, you constantly, okay, I'm sorry. Jason, when Jason sells, the first thing he does, and this is what got me started on it, was he starts from irrigation management and then goes from there.
Okay, two things. I think I was asked to make sure that we don't go 2 hours with Preston talking.
Yeah.
So I'm just here to keep him in check. Just kidding, buddy. The reality is I am a solutions-based salesman. Essentially, I need to know what the problem is so I can solve it. In our part of the world, the High Plains and most of the Midwest, it's an easy guess that water is a problem.
Yeah.
We've heard it time and time again here. Arguably, water is the most important and influential input on your crop. So managing it, going to be top of mind for your customer.
That's right. Well, that's where it starts. That's where it starts and finishes. Everything else is an added bonus. We love all these features, okay? But it's a bonus to what we do initially. That's all the point I'm trying to get across. If you disagree with me, please, I know you will. I know you'll say something. That's half of why you're here. Tim was like, please, God, keep him in check. Anyway.
I think
All
it's,
right,
I think it's more than half.
your water, energy, fuel savings, and yield increase all happen at the same time to give you that ROI. Okay. And you can prove it. We have handouts on it. I'm sure we have studies and different things that we can get you that you can be able to give to customers and make sure, you know, they said, well, where's that come from? Well, we didn't pull it out of thin air. We got a smart guy, John Gates. We got a smart guy, Nick Emanuel. You know, they came up with this crap years and years ago. This is not some new concept on what's going on. Although it has become very, very prevalent in the back of anybody's mind who's selling anything precision tech to farmers right now, who the last thing they want to do is spend, you know, I mean, they're thinking about cutting the fat. And what I have been telling everybody, and I'm going to keep screaming it from the rooftops. We're not the fat. Okay. Tech is not the fat. Now, tech that is out there that's just something, it's a cool gadget that might give you something, okay, that's fat. And there's some of that out there that is not essential for what you need. But when we're talking about water, when we're talking about irrigation management, for sure, if I can give you the proper tools in the toolbox, which I have, and you're going to pay, and it's going to pay for itself year on year, that's not fat, guys. That is the steak. Okay. So anyway, and I know you're going to run into it. So speaking of which, additional CropX features besides what we're talking about with the irrigation management, disease control, nutrition monitoring, and that's currently with the V4 only, but will be available in the upcoming Cortex.
Can I touch on the Cortex real
Yes.
fast? I have it on good account that we're gonna have more than just a handful to sort of get our dealers comfortable with this this season. And so talk to your territory manager. Let's get you on a list. Let's get this thing rolling. So in 2026, it's a full rollout.
Mr. Beasley, you know you're getting one, right? Okay. All right. Just cool. So we understand that. All right. Effluent irrigation, which really does not affect my area near as much as it does for Jason. So I'll let him touch on that a little bit if you've got anything you want to say on effluent.
I could talk all day on this stuff.
Okay, well, never mind.
You know that.
Never mind. Okay. It's amazing.
The reality is livestock producers have priorities. One of them is going to be a priority that is sort of uncomfortably placed on them by, I think we're staying ahead of what's going to be EPA requirements. And a lot of these livestock facilities are going to need permits soon because of nitrate runoff. We are the solution for that. And for those of you who haven't seen it, the ability to turn this whole separate side of our software on that will tell a producer, hey, your lagoon's full, and this field can take an inch of application. This is, in my mind, extremely valuable.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have more cows than people, but the reality is anywhere it's a riparian environment, we're going to have this issue with nitrates, and it's coming up. Minnesota, Colorado, Nebraska. I'm hearing talk from USDA and NRCS about watching this kind of stuff closely.
Good. And since he said NRCS, just want something here real quick, guys, okay? Because I can't stress this enough. John tried to tell you, okay? But when you're dealing with the NRCS crowd, you understand you've got national standard. The states can't go outside the national standard, but they can tighten that down as much as they want to in each individual state. And then the counties and the local shops end up becoming like their own little fiefdoms because they can do the same thing. You know, we're talking about difference between one county in Arkansas and the other is it's unbelievable what you got to put up with for that. But guess what? Just go find your guy, have a sit down with them, talk it over. What I find is they will back off of some things if you just have the conversation with them. But I'm saying it's, once again, communication like we talked about before.
Sorry, Preston, just to touch on that, if you have issues, if the conversation's not going well, call your territory manager. I got no problem walking into the NRCS office and sitting down and having a nice conversation.
No,
with
that's
them.
right. That's right. You don't want to have the conversation. I'll go in and raise Cain with them. I do it on a regular basis.
That's
with
right. That's
my other
right.
business.
They see me coming, so.
Yeah, no, they do. They do for a fact. Okay, so we talked about that farm data connectivity, obviously, tracking and reporting, the VRI. But the main thing I want to stress, and I think everybody in here understands this, and y'all really, I think they deserve a hand for as good as they are, the best doggone support team in any tech product that I've ever. And that is a feature. That is a sellable feature. Too many times we talk about when a product is great, but it didn't have the support necessary. Okay. This one checks all the boxes. And especially with these guys. If you ever talk to Ben Tallman on the phone, he's probably talking to 3 people at the same time and you don't even realize it. Just very, very good. All of them. Knowledgeable. Wonderful. Now, if I go and I skip over some of this, it is because we have a breakout session for this. It's going to be continued. So Taha taking just a little bit of my time wasn't going to mess us up that bad, because we're going to be just continuing this conversation, except with every TM involved. So we'll go into a little bit more detail in there. So the one thing we wanted to include, Tim wanted to make sure we got this in, and I agreed wholeheartedly, obviously. Lee, myself, and Jason put our heads together and just thought up some frequent objections that you get. We've never spent money on this before. Most of that technology isn't worth the trouble. When I hear something like that, the first thing I know is they're uncomfortable with technology, okay? They don't want to say, some of them will come right out and tell you, well, I'm dumb about this stuff. But most of them, they don't want to say they don't know something. So they're just going to tell you that, they'll give you some other excuse. With this current economy, tech is the last place I'm spending, like we talked about earlier. You're cutting the fat. This isn't where it gets cut. We don't have the manpower, labor problems.
Sorry,
That was
all this talk about fat, I'm thinking about lunch, and
I understand.
we're standing between them and lunch. But if you don't mind, Preston, I just want to throw this in. I mentioned it earlier that my style is a little different. I am a solutions-based salesman, and what I need to do is solve a problem for my customer. What we're doing here is we're hearing their problems. I find it's very easy to get a producer to start talking about his or her favorite thing, which is generally their farm. At that point, my ears perk up and I start listening for this, and that's where your real value proposition, in my mind, that's where I can start presenting value kind of tailored to the situation.
So if any of y'all been around me, I'm what they like to call a counselor salesman. I'll wear you out with questions, okay? And never making a statement in the middle of it, because that's just, if you keep asking questions and you keep engaged and you are actively listening to the person you're selling to, then they're going to give you all the information that you need to be able to get the yes out of them. And I understand this, a sales class coming from us, the heck with it, and a sales class to a bunch of agronomists at the end of the day, which most of you in this room are. Okay, you're not equipment salesmen. Few of you are, obviously. All you Ranky guys, I'm not leaving y'all out. I mean, we know what you go through. That is a waste of money for me. How many times you heard that?
Well, every day.
Yeah.
This is that ROI conversation. If you are uncomfortable with that conversation, if you don't have the passion or the data to back it up, let us know. I've heard it mentioned twice. We've got a handout. It's just not here at the moment.
Yeah.
That clearly lays this stuff out. So for me, that's the easiest. Anything about money is the easiest. The challenge on this list, if I'm being honest, and I think most of the Rinky guys will understand this too, We don't have the manpower.
Yeah.
The labor shortage is hard for me to answer, but there certainly are answers, and I've heard Preston give a couple good ones. So
I called it the Ranky question, honestly, the manpower side of it, because most of you guys, you're getting to this, but with the Ranky side, you guys are focused on selling iron. You know, you're focused on getting that metal out there and getting the spraying done, or the spraying, the overhead irrigation handled. That's the piece that you're thinking about. You're not thinking about the tech side of it a lot of times, because all of your labor is taken up by this. Let me say this about that. For you guys out there in the Ranky world, the ET sensor is the ultimate solution, I believe, for you, for a set it and forget it kind of deal. Okay. And it stops you from having to do install and extraction. Think about it for a moment. So the labor piece, you're already on the pivot anyway. Why not? So be thinking about that, guys, as something, because I know that some of you don't sell as many of the SV4s as you could, probably just because you don't have the time to mess with it because of manpower shortage and everything else. Correct?
yeah, 100%.
What you got, bud? Oh, you had the microphone in your hand, so I didn't know if you was gonna.
Here to answer questions.
I got you.
But also, one thing is, a lot of the guys have mentioned our NDVI, our satellite imagery
Yeah.
is another part that's a big seller.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Hey, this one right here. Hey, John, what's the first thing you fell in love with? True color. You were all about the NDVI. Yeah, there it is. 100%. So no, and like I said earlier, it is not the feature that you think is the coolest that may be the coolest to the other guy, and that's his aha moment. Make sure you keep that in mind, and you just cover everything. And if you cover everything, you're going to find some place that tickles his fancy. That's or hers. I think I've covered that. NRCS 5 them. Guys, we're going to have questions and discussion after lunch. There will be the session, I believe, is Tim. When is the breakout for us? Is it 2:30?
I think what Preston's saying is the 9 o'clock show is totally different. We're here all week.
No, 100%. And we'll have all 5 TMs in there, and we'll just make that we'll just make that a pretty big roundtable discussion amongst all of us, and we can sit there and kind of go back and forth. We only wanted to introduce right now while we had everybody captive and let you know that was actually going to be going on. So if there's a different session you want to go to, no big deal, but we just wanted to make sure you knew that we're going to be back and forth with you to help you out if you have any questions on, how to sell.
For me, it's a big deal. Come to ours. Forget about the other ones. And here's why. This room is full of talent. This room is full of sales talent, but best practices should be shared. Without that kind of synergy and back and forth, we just kind of stay in the status quo. So yeah, if there's some technical session that sounds super boring, come to the sales session. It's gonna be super fun.
Okay, we didn't just call any of the other speakers' sessions boring, okay?
I did, and Tim's waiting for me, but
Okay.
if I'm not there, you know what happened.
All right, there you go. Come to our session. Thanks, guys.